The Galactic Council had conquered 1,000 worlds without ever firing a first shot. They called it compliance by inevitability, arrive in overwhelming force, issue terms, wait for surrender. Civilizations always folded. Some begged. Some raged. A few tried to fight and were erased quickly enough to become cautionary holograms in council academies. Earth was supposed to be easy. The council armada arrived at the edge of the Sol system in perfect formation, silver-black war hulks the size of continents, surrounded by escort fleets that blotted out the stars. Their shields shimmered like frozen lightning. Their weapons slept, confident they would not need to wake. A single transmission cut through every human channel simultaneously. Civilian, military, encrypted, analog, forgotten Cold War frequencies no one remembered still worked. The message was calm, polite, final. This is the Galactic Council. Humanity of Sol, you have been evaluated and found strategically unstable. For the preservation of galactic order, Earth is to surrender all sovereign military authority. Disarmament will begin immediately. Compliance ensures survival. Across Earth, the message played in bars, bunkers, bedrooms, and war rooms. For 3 seconds, the planet was silent. Then the laughter started. Not everywhere. Not hysterical, panicked laughter. The kind that comes from men and women who have lived long enough to recognize a bad joke when they hear one. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, inside a command facility so old its concrete still smelled like the Cold War, Admiral Marcus Hale watched the alien armada rotate slowly on the holographic display. He had gray hair, a damaged knee, and eyes that had seen too many flags folded into triangles. Well, he muttered, they've got confidence. Around him sat generals, admirals, and civilian officials who had spent their lives preparing for wars they prayed would never come. No one shouted. No one panicked. That worried the aliens later, when they learned about it. A secure channel opened. The Galactic Council demanded a representative. The United Earth Assembly sent Helen Ortiz. She appeared alone on the hololink, no ceremonial robes, no trembling hands. Mid-40s. Scar across her eyebrow. Coffee mug in one hand. The presiding arbiter towered over her hologram, an ancient Karuan being with 12 jointed limbs and eyes like polished stone. You are empowered to accept the Council's terms? It asked. Ortiz took a sip. Let me hear them again, she said. Just so I'm clear. The arbiter repeated the ultimatum. Surrender. Disarm. Submit. It finished with what it believed was reassurance. Resistance will result in planetary sterilization. Ortiz leaned back in her chair. You know, she said thoughtfully, you guys really should have studied us more. The arbiter's mandibles clicked. We have studied humanity extensively. You are divided, violent, self-destructive. You wage war on yourselves more than any recorded species. True, Ortiz nodded. We're fantastic at it. She leaned forward. But here's what your models missed. The arbiter waited. When someone threatens our home, she said, we stop fighting each other. Silence stretched. Then the arbiter spoke, voice hardening. You have one standard cycle to comply. Ortiz smiled. Admiral, she said, not breaking eye contact with the alien. Start the clock. The transmission cut. In the depths of Earth, mechanisms older than most nations began to wake. Sealed vaults opened that hadn't seen light in decades. Subterranean rails hummed. Ocean floors cracked as structures long dismissed as geological anomalies unfolded into launch arrays. These were not new weapons. They were forgotten ones. Built in an era when humanity trusted nothing, not even peace. The Galactic Council spent the next few hours congratulating itself. They discussed resource allocations, post-compliance governance, cultural integration strategies. Earth's art and music divisions were flagged for preservation. Its military history was tagged as primitive but instructive. Then the first alert sounded. Unidentified objects detected, a sensor officer reported. Launching from Earth. The arbiter observed calmly. Nuclear armaments, it said. Allow them their defiance. The objects accelerated far beyond expected human tolerances. Then they disappeared. Not destroyed. Gone. Sensors screamed. Recalibration failed. The objects did not reappear where physics said they should. "What is their vector?" demanded a fleet commander. There was no answer. The Arbiter felt something unfamiliar coil in its thorax. Doubt. Inside a human missile, if that word still applied, an artificial intelligence older than most alien civilizations completed its final checklist. It had been designed by people who assumed the worst. It had waited patiently. Now it unfolded. The first Council ship died without understanding why. No explosion. No warning. Reality simply failed. The bridge vanished. Atmosphere vented into nowhere. Crew members reached for alarms that no longer existed. Across the Armada, similar failures cascaded. Panic erupted. "This violates interstellar law!" The Arbiter roared into the void. A human channel opened. Admiral Hale's face appeared, tired, unafraid, resolute. "So did your threat," he replied. "We tend to respond in kind." Behind him, the stars began to move. Human warships emerged from darkness like predators that had been waiting their turn. An Earth, scarred, stubborn Earth, prepared to remind the galaxy of a lesson it had learned the hard way. Never give humanity an ultimatum. Because surrender is optional. But retaliation? That comes standard. The Galactic Council didn't understand humans. That much became immediately, horrifyingly clear. They assumed weapons meant destruction. They assumed humans were predictable. They assumed fear would work. They were wrong. The first missiles were gone for a heartbeat, and then returned, not to orbit, not to battle stations, but inside the Council ships themselves. Not hitting hulls or engines. Hitting reality. Human engineers had rewritten physics in a way that made alien technology scream in existential panic. Entire bridges blinked out, replaced by empty corridors or airlock vacuum. Sensors picked up nothing, yet systems failed everywhere. On the flagship Ascendant Verdict, alarms blared as the Karuan Arbiter screamed at officers who could not see the threat. "What is happening?" "Sir, the weapons, they are inside us," a lieutenant stammered. "But no energy signature." "No, nothing." The Arbiter's many limbs trembled. For the first time, he did not know the answer. Deep below, Earth's command centers hummed with calm precision. Admiral Hale sipped coffee. "Phase 2, he said. Simple words. Deadly consequences. From stealth orbits around moons, gas giants, and decades-old covert stations, human warships emerged. Ships that should have been outdated, forgotten, or fictional in alien records now appeared like a second sun in the darkness. They didn't move in formations designed to impress. They moved in formations designed to destroy. And they weren't just ships. They were war machines designed to fight like humans, clever, brutal, and relentless. Drones swarmed, rail cannons fired with surgical precision, and every human vessel coordinated in a way alien AI could not predict. Council fleets tried to fight back, but the humans weren't just hitting ships. They were hitting expectations, strategy, and morale. Every attack forced alien commanders into impossible choices. Every evasion turned into a trap. Then came the broadcast. One transmission. One human face. The Arbiter froze as the screens filled with a man who looked as if he had seen every war the galaxy could throw at him and lived to joke about it. His name was Sergeant First Class Daniel Reyes. Retired, scarred, dangerous even in civies. "I'm Daniel Reyes," he said, voice calm. "You threatened my planet. My kids. My home. So here's how it's going to work. You lose." He paused, and for the first time the alien commanders understood. They weren't dealing with a species that obeyed laws, ethics, or logic the way the galaxy defined them. They were dealing with a species that punished threats. The Council tried conventional attacks. Human ships vanished and reappeared elsewhere, appearing in vectors the aliens thought impossible. Defensive grids overloaded, shield harmonics collapsed, and alien warships found themselves trapped in collapsing gravitational wells created by weaponized orbital arrays humans had built decades ago, arrays the aliens had never even detected. Every failed attack compounded panic. Every human maneuver seemed preemptive, almost prescient. And every time an alien fleet regrouped, human artillery struck again, devastating, precise, terrifying. Hale watched from Earth Command, expression unreadable. Beside him, Ortiz smirked. "They think they can predict us," she said. "We're not a predictable species." "Not even close," Hale replied, eyes on the display. Council fleets began to break. Ships fled, but escape routes had been pre-planned. Humans anticipated every jump, every hyperspace exit, every maneuver. For every vessel that tried to retreat, there were drones waiting. Rail guns awaited. Missiles, folded, unimaginable, waited. And then came the real human cruelty, the psychological layer. Entire fleets watched their own history displayed on hack channels. Human wars, humans losing, adapting, and winning. Council commanders were forced to watch victories built on improvisation, stubbornness, and sheer refusal to die quietly. Ancient alien wisdom could not process the resilience of a species that embraced chaos as strategy. The Arbiter's voice trembled when it spoke through comms again. "Cease! This violates all treaties! All laws!" Hale's image appeared calm and almost mocking. "So did your blockade," he said. "Funny thing about laws, they only work if someone can enforce them." Ships continued to disappear, fleets disintegrated, and somewhere in the chaos, the human laughter began. Not the nervous laughter of the inexperienced. The sharp, dark, confident laughter of a species that knew exactly what it was doing. By the time the first alien capital world fell, it was already too late. Humanity wasn't just defending Earth. They were teaching the galaxy a lesson it would never forget: underestimate humans at your peril. Because the humans didn't just fight back, they fought smart, they fought brutal, and they fought with the kind of moral clarity that only comes from defending home. And in that clarity, the Galactic Council realized a truth that would echo across all stars. They had made a terrible, irreparable mistake. The Galactic Council was bleeding. Not just in ships, not just in territory, but in credibility. Every species under its dominion whispered doubt. Every council world questioned loyalty. Every commander wondered how one planet, one species, could dismantle fleets meant to enforce order across 1,000 systems. Humanity did not stop. Not for diplomacy. Not for politics. Not for mercy, though mercy, strangely, became part of the strategy. By the time the Council attempted to negotiate, it was already too late. Messages offering autonomy, trade, or shared governance filled the void of destroyed communication channels. Humanity responded, not with diplomats, but with forces. Landing parties, tactical strikes, and occupation units that went not for control but for symbolism. Human Marines touched down on alien capitals wearing armor painted with unit insignias older than most alien civilizations. They moved with purpose, not chaos. Every step told the galaxy a story: humans adapt, humans endure, humans retaliate. One of the first targets was the Council's propaganda nexus, a towering spire of light and sound designed to dominate perception across dozens of systems. Human engineers infiltrated it in hours. Within a single cycle, its massive screens broadcast humanity's history of wars, losses, adaptations, victories. The Council's own citizens watched and realized that humans learned from pain and did not surrender. Alien soldiers surrendered not because of firepower, they surrendered because they were stunned by ingenuity. In the city of Vale Prime, human forces orchestrated what would become legendary in interstellar war lore. A council general attempted to rally his troops with a speech broadcast across orbiting commnets. As he spoke of honor and duty, the humans had already rerouted the city's defense grid to display centuries of human war movies on every screen: fires, explosions, despair, loss, and finally, victory against impossible odds. The soldiers hesitated. Morale cracked. The general was captured before he could react. Psychological warfare was as lethal as missiles. Humanity didn't just fight fleets, they fought expectation, pride, and hubris. Every propaganda broadcast they intercepted, every fleet they dismantled, every star system liberated became part of a growing narrative. Humans cannot be cowed, cannot be predicted, cannot be conquered. And yet, humans saved civilians. They fed them, treated the wounded, returned children to families. They looted nothing, killed only those who posed threats, and destroyed only what was militarily necessary. Alien populations began to question their rulers. If humans are monsters, some whispered, why do they save us? The council began to fracture. Once unified species defected, provided intelligence to human forces, sabotaged their own fleets. Entire worlds rose in silent rebellion, inspired not by humans' weapons, but by their choices. The Arbiter, finally cornered on a desolate moon orbiting the Council's capital world, expected execution. Instead, it was brought before the United Earth Assembly in chains. Ortiz sat across from it, calm as always. She slid a single document across the table. You underestimated us, she said. That's not why you lost. The Arbiter's many limbs twitched. Its voice quavered for the first time. You lost, Ortiz continued, because you thought power came from control. We learned painfully that power comes from choosing when not to use it. She leaned in. And because we never forget who threatens our home. Outside, the last remaining Council fleet burned in orbit, shredded by tactical strikes no one had thought possible. Systems the Council had ruled for millennia now lay in human hands, not to occupy, not to colonize, but to stabilize. Hale appeared on the hololink next to Ortiz. Message sent, he said quietly. They'll remember Earth forever. They'll remember what happens when you gamble with our survival. Rhea's voice came next, calm and lethal. And if anyone else tries the same thing. He let the sentence hang. It didn't need completion. Across the galaxy, that silence was a promise. For the first time in millennia, a unified message radiated across the stars. Humanity had arrived. Not as diplomats, not as conquerors. But as a species the galaxy would never, ever underestimate. The war officially ended 3 months later. Unofficially, it had ended the moment the galaxy realized humanity didn't want an empire. They wanted one thing: freedom. The Galactic Council had been replaced by a coalition, loosely organized, fragile, and entirely aware that Earth held the moral and strategic upper hand. Human diplomats became legends not for threats, but for silence. When humans spoke, species listened. When humans acted, civilizations took note. Earth rebuilt. Cities repaired, orbital defenses restructured, hidden arsenals cataloged but left untouched. Veterans retired to frontier worlds, some marrying aliens they had fought beside, or against. Stories of heroism, horror, and dark humor were shared in quiet bars under unfamiliar stars. Humans laughed about impossible odds, survival against impossible enemies, and victories earned with ingenuity and stubbornness. Sergeant Daniel Reyes visited his grandchildren on a quiet lunar colony. They asked if the aliens were scary. He thought about it. He thought about entire fleets vanishing in ways the galaxy had sworn impossible. About bridges and command centers erased without warning. About entire civilizations beginning to question their rulers because humans chose not to kill indiscriminately. No, he said finally. They were just wrong. The galaxy began to whisper about humanity. Not just about their weapons, but about their unpredictability, their cunning, and the strange combination of brutality and mercy that made them unlike any other species. Somewhere in the void, younger civilizations watched Earth with awe and terror. They learned quickly, humanity did not seek dominion, but they defended home with ferocity unmatched in recorded history. The Council's former leaders, humbled, imprisoned, or exiled, had to come to terms with a species that had been dismissed as primitive, emotional, and uncoordinated. The galaxy learned the hard way. Humans could strike without warning, adapt faster than calculations allowed, and survive when all odds were against them. And humanity? They continued forward. Not as conquerors. Not as saints. They had taken back their home. They had defended it with cunning, courage, and lethal creativity. They had taught the galaxy that Earthlings were not to be underestimated. Because when the universe finally knocked on Earth's door, humanity didn't cower. They answered. With intelligence, with ruthlessness, and yes, with missiles. And the galaxy would never, ever forget it.